around and doing their, introducing themselves, you can go to the little chat box, and I'm going to do it right now. And it says, like, when I hit chat down at the bottom, it says to everyone, and I'm going to put, hi, Melissa Clark.
Oh.
If I can type, hey. And then that's my introduction to you guys, so you know I'm here and what business with us. There's Daniel. Happy to see everyone. So if everyone wants to go around and do that, that'd be a nice way to introduce yourself so everyone knows who's on the call, the Zoom meeting. And we have 3 door prizes at the end, but you have to be in attendance on the Zoom to win. We have a $50 gift card for a Visa card, and we have 2 Rally House $50 gift cards where you can go buy your Royals apparel. So with that, I'm going to turn over this part of the luncheon to Dave Stein with Kansas Manufacturing Solutions, who is our sponsor and is going to talk a little bit about what they're up to.
Great. Great. Hello, everybody, and Kansas Manufacturing Solutions exists to help manufacturers in the state of Kansas grow. That's our mission. That's why we're here. If you go to the second slide, Caitlin, there you go. As you all know, COVID-19 has created havoc on everyone. This is especially true for the manufacturing community. We've been busy supporting manufacturers who are trying to, 1, just survive, 2, manufacturers that are trying to keep up with demand, and then manufacturers are working hard to keep their employees safe. So we've been doing a variety of things to help achieve that. 1, we've been helping to increase profitability by removing costs from their businesses, conducting company health audits, and updating strategic plans to help companies pivot. We've done workforce safety protocols to help keep employees safe and mitigate risk, from providing production perspectives as well as legal considerations, just all facets of the manufacturing process. We've also provided resources such as webinars and back to work guides to help reduce confusion, uncertainty, and fear. And in essence, our value proposition for manufacturers in the state of Kansas is that we're the only advisory firm solely focused, only focused on growing Kansas manufacturing and providing proven published results. So no other advisory firms really do that. They're not just focused on Kansas, and they're not focused on providing published results. We do that. So the last slide, Caitlin, simply, if you have challenges and you're looking to resolve them, you're spending too much time researching for resources, or you just need someone to talk with, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is there. If you want my cell phone number, I'm happy to just have conversations, walk through things with you. It's 913-961-9575. And with funding resources potentially available from stimulus packages that are being announced, that are being put forward by legislators in DC as well as Topeka, we might be able to help you resolve some challenges at a reduced cost as well. So it's amazing. It's amazing that people have found ways to manage the situation, such as meeting virtually like we're doing now. And hopefully we get back to normal sooner than later, and not really considering this a new normal, but really trying to get back to being in person with everybody and with each other. And at this point, we're really happy to support the FIA and this virtual luncheon, and we hope we can all be back together soon. So thank you on behalf of Kansas Manufacturing Solutions. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave, and thanks for sponsoring the luncheon. And I agree. hopefully this is not our new normal and we will be back to normal soon. We still saved on our calendar in hopes of that our December holiday happy hour, which is the Argosy hosts it. They have a big, beautiful banquet room set up for us. They did last year, appetizers, drinks, all of it for free, and it's all decorated for the holidays. And so we have left that on the calendar. We're going to go virtual until then, and maybe hopefully there's a vaccine and we can all see each other in person, which would be great because I think everyone misses seeing each other. But this is the next best thing, and so we will just power on. With that, I am going to now introduce Joel Goldberg, who's Royals, I believe I'm saying this right, Royals commentator. He's an announcer for the Royals, and he's also a motivational speaker. Carl Ferrara, who's on the call with us, who does the design and marketing, or website design and marketing for Fairfax, and is a good friend of mine. He heard him speak at his company and suggested he would be a great speaker for us. He said it was great to listen to him, and so I'm going to turn this over to Joel, and he can talk to us about making a splash with a championship culture.
All right. Good morning. Yeah, we're still morning, almost afternoon here. So Melissa, thanks for the intro. And I know the feeling when that camera's not coming up and working. It's happening to all of us. It's the equivalent of when the dog or the kids come into the room and you're in the middle of a meeting. It's okay. That's just where we're at. And it's become very acceptable. And you know, I'll say this, we all would like to get back to in person. I wish that I could be in front of you way back when. And Carl, thanks for getting the ball rolling on this. And I feel like Melissa and I have had some form or another of discussions that began well before the world was a different place. But, you know, and I'm the eternal optimist, I think. So, you know, we're here. And my goal here for you when you walk out in, you know, the next 45 minutes or so is to have a takeaway and hopefully to either learn something or be inspired, and that we're still capable of doing that. And so this is just before I get into my presentation, my little spiel about the fact that we're doing baseball and television right now in a way we've never done it before. And in the end, if people are still consuming it and still enjoying it, then we're winning. It may not feel as good, it may not be as easy, it may be different, but we're still pushing forward. So that's I think my little message in terms of the fact that this is all doable. It's great to see so many faces on here right now. I'll open it up at the end for some questions so we can go there. And Caitlin's got control of all this. Caitlin, I would just say, if you see anybody jumping in or you hear some noise, just mute them if you don't mind doing that, because a lot of times we forget to do that. And quite frankly, we may not even want to hear the conversations that we're not supposed to be hearing. So we're all living in that world. So here's what I want to do. When we originally talked about doing this, the speech I was giving to everyone was about championship culture. That was the main speech. There's some other elements to this too now, because let me just go back and do one thing here, because the world obviously has changed. So I like to talk a lot about Buck O'Neil. I actually came here to Kansas City in 2008. I'd worked in St. Louis 10 years before that, and Wisconsin before that. So I've been in TV about 26 years. And I unfortunately never had the chance to meet Buck O'Neil. I feel like I know him, but I love this quote because nothing better than baseball. It teaches all the lessons. I tell every group that I talk to that if you are a baseball fan, great. I think you'll enjoy the stories and the insight. If you're not a baseball fan, this is geared towards you because of what Buck O'Neil says. Why does baseball teach all the lessons? Because it's every day. And that's not a knock on football, but football, they spend every day to get ready for one day. And baseball, with the occasional off day, which we have today, you can have the worst day and the worst night, and you got to go back and do it again tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And that's life. That's life professionally. That's life personally. It doesn't stop. And in a normal year, 162 games, I mean, it is a marathon. So now we've turned this marathon into a sprint, but yet I'm still seeing that there are lessons every single day. When I came here in 2008, the Royals were not very good. If you are from here, if you grew up here, you understand what they used to look like. So I want to give you a little visual of what it actually looked like around when I got here.
There's a bouncing ball. Ken Harvey charging. And a collision with Grimsley. Unbelievable. And I think both of them are hurt. Oh, my. What a crazy play that one was. Oh, boy.
So that's just one that I could find on YouTube, but you could really find any of them. And I mention that because there wasn't an identity here when I came. They were the laughing stock. If you think in terms of business, I mean, you know, the good companies don't look like that. And the Royals have an identity now. I like to use it, and I know that Dave, wearing his Royals blue there, is a Cardinals fan. I'll forgive you for that. But what has always impressed me about the Cardinals from the day that I got to St. Louis in '98 to the day that I left in '07 or '08 to now, minus the incredible hurdles and struggles they're going through, is that they've had an identity, or what I like to say is the word way. If you could put the word way at the end of your organization, the Cardinals way, the Yankees way, I don't like them either, the Red Sox way, the Royals way. There was no way when I got here. It was just starting. That was the challenge for Dayton Moore. And people ask now about, they got a new manager, they got a new owner, and that's all going really well. But what they have is the same architect from the beginning. This was the guy that built it. And he came here from Atlanta where he was the assistant general manager. And they were winning every year. They had a Braves way. They had won something like 13 straight division titles. And so everybody was saying, why in the world would you take a promotion to go from assistant GM to GM and deal with all of that? I mean, it was a job killer, but he took it. And we know, no spoiler alert here, we already know that it ended very well and is still going right now. I met Dayton, and when I met him, I remember asking him, what are you trying to do here? Because I knew the team was a last place type of team. And he said to me, I want to build a championship culture. And I remember vividly, he looked at me and he said, I'm not just talking about the 25 guys in the locker room. I mean, you've got your core players, right? This game is always about the players. I'm talking about the ticket takers, the beer vendors. I'm talking about the scouts, the accountant up in the office. I'm talking about the fans, and not just here in Kansas City. I'm talking about the whole region. That to me is a culture. Because if you think about in all of your companies and your industries, culture is not just the people that work for you. I mean, it can involve your clients, your prospects, their families, and everyone. I mean, that's when you know you truly have something. So we know that Dayton Moore built the culture. And in the last couple of years, as they've lost so many players, and there are some disadvantages to being in a smaller market and having to reload in their talent, what they have not lost is their culture. And that is what will enable them to get back to where they were before sooner. The challenge now is sustainability. I had a front row seat to watch it all. To me, if you're going to build a culture, you do so with a team. I've never heard anybody talking about wanting to build a culture of one, right? So I've had a chance to watch them build teams. To me, what goes into a team? Trust, energy, accountability, and makeup. So I'll leave those up for a second, but those are the four elements to me of building a team that gives you a culture. So let's start first and foremost with the trust end of things. And trust to me can be a couple of different levels. One of the phrases I heard Dayton Moore say often, and I still hear it to this day, and now with other organizations, is trust the process. Are you going about things the right way? Hunter Dozier, the now Royals right fielder, played third base, first base, cleanup hitter. He told me last year that even if he has a night with no hits or a stretch where he's in a slump, he goes back after every game, good or bad, and he fills in a spreadsheet in his computer that measures other results beyond just if I got a hit or not. Did I hit the ball hard? Did I see a lot of pitches? All of the pieces that he knows he can control. And if those numbers check out, regardless of what it says on the scoreboard, he says, I'm going to trust the process. Now, if the process is messed up and I've gotten away from myself, then we need to make adjustments. But how do you build trust within an organization? How do you build trust with players? And this, to me, was one of the most fascinating things to watch with Mike Matheny, because here he comes in replacing a manager in Ned Yost that had been here for about 10 years. How do you, on that first day at the office, start to build trust? How do you continue that culture? But this wasn't Mike Matheny's first day at the office, which, by the way, feels like 5 years ago at this point, but it was back in February at spring training in Arizona. Mike Matheny, when he got hired in the fall, spent the offseason hopping on planes trying to connect with players. Now, we may not all have those resources, but he was going above and beyond so that when he hit the ground running on day one for their first day of workouts, he had already started to build relationships. Joe Madden, the manager now of the Los Angeles Angels, but formerly the Cubs and the Tampa Bay Rays, talked about how you build relationships and then you build trust. Once you build trust, then you could start to have the exchange of ideas with each other. And then you could have constructive criticism. But until you build that relationship and that trust, it's really hard to have that back and forth. Madden told me that a couple of years ago. He's going through that now with the new team with the Angels, just as Mike Matheny did. But Matheny was hopping on planes and flying to North Carolina just to have coffee with Whit Merrifield, or he was flying down to Miami to go out with Jorge Soler and Salvador Perez, who has a house down there, and one of the coaches on the staff. He was going and catching up with other people. Let's see if we can mute that. Okay. And so day one, he had already started working on it. So here's an interview that I don't think ever ran because it was supposed to be part of our season preview in late March. We never got to that point. This is what he told me, because I said to him, you've already made all those inroads. And for him, he said that more work had to be done.
They have a heightened awareness for nonsense. I mean, these guys sniff that stuff out pretty quick. And what I have to say, it needs to be real. I told you this before, Joel. This team's really driving the message. What is it that they want to see? What do they expect of themselves? And all right, if that's the case, what do we need to do? And realistically, how can we go about chasing what they want to see?
It's so interesting because I've heard similar comments from CEOs around town. We want to listen to our people. We want to hear what they have to say. The office, the door is always open. Exchange those ideas. Mike Matheny spent more time during spring training walking around, asking guys questions and listening to their answers. And he's doing it now too. He has already built that trust, and he's still working on it every single day. And he's building it with us too, as broadcasters. He's going about things differently. He's going against tradition in a lot of ways. And he says the only way you could do that is by walking around, leading by walking around and explaining to people what we're doing, explaining the why and listening to their feedback, and just having that open line of communication. He's beautifully built that trust. And I think trust right now in uncertain times, more important than ever. Okay, energy. To me, energy doesn't have to be the loudest person in the room. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. It can be somebody quiet. Alex Gordon has amazing energy. He's a quiet guy. Salvador Perez, loud guy, a lot of energy. Energy, to me, I see it every day because I work with Rex Hudler. If you watch us, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't watch us, these pictures are 3 of 1,000 of them that I have. He's a piece of work. He is a character. He is a personality. Look at the picture on the bottom right of your screen. We're in Chicago. They're playing the White Sox. He's wearing moose antlers. And the cameraman, who's not part of our traveling crew, we pick him up in Chicago, is looking at him like, what in the world is going on here? Rex, if you haven't heard it, you can Google it on YouTube or YouTube it, or however you'd say that one. Just search Rex Hudler Planet Moon. And he'd be embarrassed if I was telling that. But there was a broadcast once where he talked about the moon being a beautiful planet, and we needed to fill him in on a little bit of science. And he realized it. He's like our modern day Yogi Berra. Yogi had yogiisms, it ain't over till it's over, things like that. So we call it HUDisms. They don't make sense literally, but you always understand what he's trying to say. There was a day where we were in San Francisco, phenomenal, beautiful afternoon playing the Giants right there on the bay. And they come back with a shot of a kid eating an ice cream cone. And HUD says, oh, such a perfect day here in the Bay Area. 68 degrees. Ice cream won't melt on a 68-degree day. And I had him on my post-game show. And I said, first off, HUD, 68 degrees, ice cream won't melt. Scientifically not possible. And he realized at that point what he had said. Most of us are a think first, speak second. HUD as we call him, is a speak first and maybe think, maybe not. But it's the beauty of his personality. I love him like a brother. And if I'm going to take one quote from him that is dead on and that I think about every single day, it's this: there are energy givers and energy takers. Who are those people in your organization when they walk into the room, they flip the light switch on? Don't have to be the loudest. Who is that person that when they walk into the room, they turn the lights off? Could be the loudest person. Who is giving and who is taking? I think it always matters in every culture, but at a time right now, you know, how often have we said, raise your hand? I have. That is so 2020, which I get, like we're all dealing with stuff, but how can we make the best of the situation? Those are the energy givers. This will not come as a surprise to anybody, but Salvador Perez is the biggest energy giver of a player that I've ever been around. He's unbelievable. Same as Hudler. What you see is what you get. This is every day during normal times. Last night, he was on a Zoom call post-game, and we ran the whole thing. And I think, you know, he does the Salvi splash, and he doesn't have that right now. We're not doing all that stuff right now. After every person finished with a question and thanked him on that Zoom call, he's shimmying and shaking, and he's flexing, and he's doing all this stuff just because he's having fun. And it's just infectious. I mean, this guy, so I'll show you this. Last year, he didn't play. It just broke his heart. This kid, and I'll call him a kid, but he's 30 now, lives to play baseball. He lives to be around people. And so he traveled with us later in the year as he was starting to be able to work out more. He'd had elbow surgery. And I looked down one day in Chicago, and I look over to the dugout. I'm up on the field talking to somebody off camera, and guess who's got my microphone? Salvador Perez. So we recorded it, and we played this during our show.
Would you believe it? I step away from the microphone for 1 minute, and look who stole it.
Royal Life for Cellular Field in Chicago. First game of the series. Joe no wanna work. Montgomery no wanna do anything today. I'll be gonna guide this guy, okay? Because I don't do nothing all year long. Okay, guys? We'll see you soon. Come by in 5 seconds.
So a few comments there. One, I don't know what commercial break is 5 seconds. We'll be back in 5 seconds. That's interesting. Two, he says something like, Joel doesn't want to work. Montgomery's not working. I've been here doing nothing all year long. Okay. Third, if you are going to talk in front of a camera in a language that is your second language, I would not recommend sunflower seeds. Fourth, there are times where people say to me, I don't always understand everything Salvi says because of the accent. And yet they still love him. Why do they love him? Because of his energy. I understand his accent because I've been around him since he was 20 years old. But if you don't understand it every single time, it's okay. I tell players all the time, smile, have fun. And not that I'm coaching them, but a smile and positive energy goes a long way. There is never a moment where Salvador Perez doesn't lighten the room. That right there is an energy giver. When we can surround ourselves with energy givers, it will make you more productive at work. It will help your culture. So if being an energy taker is a bad thing, someone that takes from an accountability standpoint is good. We want to give energy. We want to take accountability. The old expression is there's no I in team, there is an I in accountability. To me, that I stands for I got it. I got you. This one may be the toughest one because it takes guts, courage, confidence, and trust to be able to take blame, share blame, shift blame away from someone else and take it on yourself. Joe Girardi, who is now the manager of the Philadelphia Phillies, told me when he was managing the Yankees that accountability is taking stuff for others. This is one of my favorite pictures. I'm not sure who is taking what for who in this picture. Looks like a combination of water and orange Gatorade. I don't know if the target was me or Hosmer. My guess is that Eric Hosmer said, "Come on, you're in on this," and I'm too much older and too unathletic to escape the grasp of some of these guys. But really, this picture to me, while it's about taking stuff for someone, it's about Eric Hosmer and accountability. And I want to share the story with you. It never got any publicity. Probably the only place it's been talked about is in speeches of mine. Hosmer's last year, the Royals are still trying to contend, and they thought that they could do it. They fell short that year. But later in the season, the Royals are in Tampa Bay or in St. Petersburg, Florida, playing the Tampa Bay Rays. They're down by a run. It's the 6th or 7th inning. Eric Hosmer is on first base. Lorenzo Cain's on second base. There's 2 outs. Real simple. Base hit ties the game. Extra base hit gives them the lead. They think that they might make the playoffs again. 1 game could make the difference. 2 outs and Hosmer gets picked off at first to end the inning. I remember thinking as I was watching from up above, that really could be costly. I mean, this could be devastating. They came back to win. So it ended up being a non-story. But still, as the cameras went into the clubhouse, somebody asked the question to Hosmer. You know, somebody in the media said, "Hey, what happened on that play?" And he said, I messed up. I just messed up. And I'm so glad that my teammates bailed me out, because otherwise this loss would have been my fault. I misread the pitcher. I misread the move. Later that night, I was out for a drink with Hosmer and his family. His family's from Miami. I was close with them. So his mom, his dad, his brother, his uncle, Hosmer, Mike Moustakas was with us. And we're all sitting around at the hotel outside for a drink. And somebody says to him, "Hey, Eric, what happened on that play at first?" It wasn't me, because if somebody's asking me out for a drink, I'm not in a reporting role at that point. And he turned back and he said, "You know, I dove back in. I stood up, and Rusty Kuntz, the first base coach, beloved first base coach, Rusty says, Hos, sorry, I completely got his move wrong. I didn't see it right. That's my fault." Nobody ever knew it. People don't go and interview the first base coach after the game unless something went wrong. A lot of people don't even know what the first base coach does half the time. And they do a lot of behind the scenes stuff. If Eric Hosmer had said, I was just following my coach, just doing what I'm told, guess where everybody in the media goes afterwards? They go seek out Rusty Kuntz to ask one question: what went wrong? But the next day, if Rusty Kuntz saw the paper or the video clips, what he saw was Eric Hosmer saying, "It's just my bad." It went away. The flip side is that when the Royals came back against the Toronto Blue Jays in 2015, a ball dropped into right field. They were losing. The floodgates open. Royals came back to win. If they don't win that game, maybe they don't win the series. They don't get to the World Series and win the World Championship. Ball should have been caught in right field by Toronto at Kauffman Stadium. Maybe the second baseman, who was a young guy, should have had it. The right fielder probably could have got it. Nobody caught it. Floodgates opened. After the game, all the international media goes into the visiting clubhouse at Kauffman Stadium, and they go right to the right fielder, the superstar of the Toronto Blue Jays, Jose Bautista, the home run hitting veteran and leader of the team. And they said, "What happened?" And he said, "I don't know. Go talk to the second baseman." Taking stuff for others or not, that's accountability. Eric Hosmer was the best at it that I saw. A lot of times, and I actually need to ask him about this at some point. There were just nights where he would stand up for others. What I need to ask him about is that he hit a walk-off home run against Greg Holland, who's now back with the Royals wearing Hosmer's number 35. They were good friends. He hit a walk-off homer against Holland to win it. Jubilation. And here was his former teammate walking off the mound for Colorado. And I'm ready to interview Hosmer as my star of the game. And the media relations vice president comes up to me and says he can't do it. I said, "What?" Hosmer's never said no to an interview, ever. He said his shirt got ripped off in the celebration and he can't do it. And I thought I don't think he would mind having a ripped shirt on. He's not in bad shape. I figured it out afterwards. He texted me while I was on the air during the show, "Hey, sorry, dude. It's nothing personal. My shirt was messed up." And what? He didn't want to show up Greg Holland. That's all that was. I want to follow up with him on some point and confirm that. He didn't want to be gloating in the misery of another guy. as stand-up a player I've ever dealt with. The last element is makeup. It's one that maybe not everybody understands because I don't think it's a word that we use as much in business, but it's one that the Royals talk about almost every single day. And I'm not talking about the makeup you put on your face. And yes, I do wear makeup on TV, okay? High definition television is not friendly. For any of you women out there or men, I hope you would recognize this is not my makeup. There's no lipstick going on and all that. But I'm not talking about that kind of makeup too. That's the kind of makeup you put on your skin. I'm talking about the kind of makeup that's in your heart. The Royals made a determination a while back that when we build and we continue to build and we reshuffle, it'll always be with the type of people that reflect the Royals way. Who are the type of people that you want in your organization? In 2014, the Royals reacquired a player by the name of Raul Ibanez. He had been here early in his career. He could hit home runs, great teammate. He goes on a list of nicest guy ever, and there are a bunch of them in baseball. Beloved by everyone, bilingual, so he connects with almost every one of the teammates. I'm not sure how his Japanese is if you have a Japanese teammate, but the English guys, the Spanish-speaking guys, seamlessly between both. If you look at the Royals in 2014 and you look at Raul Ibanez's stats, you will see that he hit 188 with 2 home runs. He retired at the end of the season. He was 40 years old. He had just been cut by the Angels when the Royals said, let's give him a try. He'd had a great career in places like Seattle and Philadelphia, played for the Yankees for a bit. But here he was at the end, and he wasn't doing a whole lot. So why will so many of the Royals credit him for their success in 2014? It's because of the makeup. Makeup to me is people that care. It's who you are on the inside. It's how you fit in no matter what your role is. And oftentimes, those behind the scenes people have to be the high makeup people. Sometimes you might have to give a little bit away with your superstars, your top producers. But ideally, if everyone has good makeup, when the Royals acquire a new player, you say, hey, what do you like about him? He's got great makeup. Who are you on the inside? The Royals had lost 4 games in a row in July of 2014. This was finally going to be the year. They hadn't been to the playoffs since 1985. So Ibanez calls a players-only meeting, and he and some of the other veterans rally the troops. They give this big speech. The team goes on to win something like 27 of the next 32 games. The speech essentially was, you guys are better than you realize. You're young, athletic, defense, bullpen. You're better than you know. No one wants to. I've got friends around the league that say, if we get in the playoffs and have to face you, we're in trouble. Sure enough, a couple of months later, last Friday of September, same Chicago locker room, the Royals clinched their first playoff berth in 29 years, and Raul Ibanez was sitting back. You can't see it in the picture. He had a champagne bottle, a cigar, like a proud father. Raul Ibanez didn't even make the playoff roster in 2014. They went with 25 other guys. He was there as a cheerleader. Players on that team will tell you that Raul Ibanez was a key piece to it. During the pandemic, I started multiple podcasts. One was a baseball show. The guy on the left, Victor Rojas' dad, was a Royals Hall of Famer here, Cookie Rojas. Victor's the play-by-play guy for the Los Angeles Angels. We had Ibanez on. I'd never asked him this before. Here he is retired now. You can see the jerseys of the teams he played for over his shoulder, over his left shoulder. And I asked him what he said in that meeting, and what he said that day, and he told us this during the pandemic, the early part of the pandemic, was a message to me that could resonate for all of us, no matter what we do.
My message was, hey, you guys think that it's about, or some of you guys, not all of them, but a couple of guys think that it's about your stats or your numbers. And at the end of the day, I said, nobody's going to remember any of it. The only thing they're going to remember is whether you won or not. And you know, you have an opportunity to do something legendary. You have an opportunity to do something extraordinary. You have an opportunity that's going to make an impact on millions of lives. What are we going to do today? What are we going to do now?
Think about that. I mean, an impact on millions of lives. It's just a baseball game. But how many people's lives were changed, even if it was just having some entertainment, having something to look forward to? Well, we all have our troubles in life. But in 2015, 2014, people weren't getting as much sleep in October going to work. But how much fun was that? How much joy did that bring to people's lives? He was right. They had a chance to make an impact on millions of lives. Before that, somewhere around the time of his speech, I remember talking to Big Papi, David Ortiz, the legend in Boston. And I was talking to him about the Royals. This would have been around September of 2014. He said, I told all those players over there, Salvador Perez and Moustakas and Hosmer, that if they can get in the playoffs, that they will change this city forever. Seemed like a bold statement from a bold guy, until I went back to him a couple of years later and I said, you were right. This whole city changed. The pride of Kansas City that we felt after the Chiefs won really started when the Royals won. You started seeing KC hats all over the country. You started people wearing their Royal stuff. So I say that now to businesses. I think about banks, for instance. Some of those bankers who usually wouldn't even process loans, 18-hour days, and I would tell them, you might be changing some lives here. It might be maddening. You might be exhausted. I mean, all of us have a chance to wake up every single day and make things better. And that was Ibanez's message, and it's one that resonated with him. Final thought on makeup, because I mentioned that oftentimes it's those role players, those behind the scenes, and I would ask all of you this question as you're reflecting right now is, who in your company are those role players that you can't live without? It's a good chance that they don't even want all the attention. The people like me, we're comfortable getting that attention. We're comfortable in the spotlight. I don't need it, but I understand it comes with the exposure of being on TV. Most of the people that you see on this shot, no one would recognize in town. You've maybe heard their names mentioned at the end of a broadcast, but these are the guys in a normal year that we travel with. So on the bottom left of your screen, you see Jeff Montgomery, Royals Hall of Fame pitcher. All the way in the back there, you see Rex Hudler. But most of these guys are our producers and our director. A couple of the radio guys are in there. But I'll say this, the next time you watch a game on TV, whatever sport, if you watch sports, just look over the course of 1 minute how many times the camera shot changes. It doesn't happen by itself. The guy in the back, the kind of red checkered shirt back there with the shaved head, I'll say it that way. That's our longtime director, Steve Kurtenbach, one of the best in the business. He's calling out every one of those shots, camera 1, camera 5, camera this, camera that. It's like watching surgery. It's head spinning. But if we don't have him there and we have somebody that's not as good, you'll notice. The guy on the bottom right in the sunglasses with the earbuds in, named Sam Abramson. You'll hear his name every night at the end of the broadcast. Associate producer Sam Abramson. If tomorrow night a squirrel were to run on the field, I swear to you, within 30 seconds, he would have a flashback of the last time it happened. Now, he's different. I mean, I don't know, like, Sammy's my seatmate on the plane when we travel. We're in the same row. We were actually born about 5 hours apart. I think I'm about 5 hours older than him. So he's kind of like, brother from another mother type for me. He is known around the world as one of the best at what he does. He has this photographic memory. He knows where to find anything that's ever happened on his drive and have it queued up and playing as a flashback within seconds. Any of these little video packages you see he's putting together. Sometimes people say to us, how do you guys know all those stats? Well, I could look it up and spend 7 hours, but the other guy in the sunglasses on the bottom, Dave Holtzman, who we reference a lot on our broadcast, sends us a 7-page attachment to an email every single morning. Here's the pitching matchup. Here's who's done well against that pitcher. Here's who's done poorly. Here's a trend. Here's what's going on with the offense, the defense, the bullpen, the history of the matchups with this team overall and last year. And if we need more, you just call him and he gets you more. These are all the people behind the scenes that make it happen. They don't necessarily want the spotlight, but they have to be high makeup people. I love working with every single one of these guys. It's part of our culture, and we're part of the Royals culture. So trust, energy, accountability, and makeup. And now the question is, and we got a little bit of time left before we wrap up. Where do we go from here? Because the companies that have the best culture are still hanging in there right now, or at least it's giving them a chance. But everything looks different today. We all know that. Look, everything looks different today than it did in April. And we know how different everything was in April versus back in March. Everybody can relate to this picture. Who hasn't been under pressure? This is the last portion of what I want to talk about as we navigate all of this right now, as we find those new norms, or what I like to call the next norm. Because, you know, we'd all like to get back to how things were before, and we'll get back to some of that at some point. But nothing will ever be the same either. So what's next? We have all been under pressure. I certainly was. I mentioned as we were kind of starting doing a little bit of networking, virtual networking before we started, I mentioned to Gary that the last time I saw Gary, the world was changing. We were at an Accelerant speaker event downtown. I was his guest. And I remember walking around that morning networking session, shaking hands and then trying to find hand sanitizer. And that was the early stages of knowing something was going on here, and we were close. I remember walking to the downtown hotel and seeing some of the schools' fan clubs and bands wandering around downtown, where it was mostly like a ghost town for the Big 12 tournament being scheduled to start later that day. Within a few hours later, the Big 12 tournament had canceled. Does anybody remember the night before that Wednesday night, the NBA postponed its season? I'm not a huge NBA fan, but I remember that. Or maybe you remember that was the night that Tom Hanks said that he and his wife had the coronavirus in Australia, and it felt that far away until it didn't. When the Big 12 canceled, I knew that we were in trouble, because that's a huge event. Millions and millions of dollars in economic impact lost. And I knew baseball would be right behind. And sure enough, it was. For those of you that don't know, and this isn't a feel sorry for me, but I, like many broadcasters, are paid by the game. We're freelance. And so that last paycheck usually comes the first week of October, and the next one comes the first week of April. And here we are in the middle of March, and I'm suddenly realizing there's not going to be a paycheck for a while. It might be till May. It was actually late July. So I had to do something. There was no baseball to talk about. I want to show you a set of plays here, and I'll explain why, because it relates to all of us pushing forward here.
Kozoi will get the out at second. They try to turn it, and they do!
Escobar with a glove flip, barehanded.
Catches it right there. Yep, that soccer player. Boy, that's being a soccer player.
Middle could be two. There's a flip. How do you like that?
Bouncing ball up the middle. Crawford on the dive. To shovel the panic. To Posey! Double play!
Those two words, double play. Forgive me for adding a San Francisco Giants highlight there. It wasn't Madison Bumgarner, so if that makes anybody feel any better for you Royals fans. Double play. Why did I show the double play? I think there are a lot of elements to a double play, which, by the way, we saw last night in the most thrilling fashion, the Royals ending the game. I got to switch up that video and see if I can get that Royals double play on there, because they won the game because of a double play. What goes into a double play? Communication, the ability to be nimble, the ability to be creative, and we've all seen this, the pivot. Most of the time that guy catches the ball, he's got to turn, change direction, and throw. We've all been there with the pivot. So I pivoted during this whole pandemic, added some podcasts, started doing virtual speaking. So when Melissa was talking about how different this is, I had to make that pivot back in April. We can't stand still with our everyday life. And so I had to make that pivot because I needed to start going out there and changing my business up a little bit and generating and figuring out a new way to do things. Then we came back to work. And for the first time ever, we're not traveling for baseball. So we're having to broadcast games at home in an empty stadium while the team is on the road. And my job as the pre and post game show host and as the guy passing on the stories during the game is to have a face-to-face daily connection with these players every day. Can't have that right now. I'm in the spare bedroom at home and I'm interviewing players from here. And I'm texting guys and trying to call guys to dig up little bits of information. I'm reaching out to their families. I'm having to find new ways to do it because the games aren't stopping. And if they do stop, that's obviously a bad thing. This is oftentimes what Kauffman Stadium can look like right now. And yes, I saw a raccoon a couple of weeks ago hanging out in the Diamond Club. We're driving around in a golf cart. You see on the right side of your screen, that's my set. And I'll go out there if I'm not in a suite doing the broadcasts. On the top left there is the first time I ever interviewed Tyler Zuber, rookie pitcher for us. I still haven't shaken his hand yet. I won't this year. We have no face-to-face access with the players. But the point and the message, guys, is this. We still have to find a way to do it. Is it as good as it was before? It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We have a product to deliver. So how can we do it? I love this image because everybody was together, 800,000 people. They tell us we're not supposed to have groups of 10. But if you think about the spirit of that day, and this to me was a better one than the Chiefs only because it was the first one. You know, it had been since 1985. The spirit, even with people that maybe don't always get along, that have different viewpoints, different political viewpoints, different viewpoints on life, everyone rallied around one thing, Royals, community. Remember when I said that Dayton Moore talked about not just this, but this? There's your championship culture. What I want to leave you all with is this. One of the podcasts that I added to what I already do was a daily live video podcast during the pandemic. I had on Kathy Nelson. The hair got to be a mess during the pandemic. The beard game was going a little bit. Didn't matter. Kathy Nelson is the president of the Kansas City Sports Commission. She was the one that had to pull the plug on the Big 12 tournament. She was the one that, and is the one that brings all these events to Kansas City. She was the one that planned that parade. She talked about that parade and a lesson and a phrase that I want you guys to remember because it stuck with me ever since this conversation.
That picture makes me think of a phrase Billie Jean King says all the time, pressure is a privilege. And so I look at that picture like you do and talk about, you know, people coming together to celebrate. But I think of the pressure of planning that parade was such a privilege I will take with me for the rest of my life. The pressure right now of trying to figure this all out, being asked to help with the city, being asked to help on a national level, being asked to help locally of how are we going to figure this out? That's a lot of pressure. It's still such a privilege. And the pressure of being in that room with the Big 12 men's basketball championship and saying we're not going to play men's or women's, that pressure felt very heavy. But I look back and think what a privilege it was to have a voice.
That's the quote that has stuck with me. It's gone from writing it down, putting it on a sticky note to ingrained in my head because I felt a lot of pressure. No income. What do I do? Speaking's tougher. Wait a minute. We got an opportunity here. What a privilege. So if you're under pressure, take that opportunity. I was not sleeping, by the way, either there. Terrible screenshot, but that's okay. Pressure is a privilege. Let's credit Billie Jean King with that. And I'll wrap it up with this. Lessons learned during these last 4 months. We so often think about big picture, timeless. And yes, that still matters, but what can we do today to win? Mike Matheny uses the expression, let's chase wins. We're going to chase wins every day. How can you win every single day? I mentioned the importance of communication. Don't stop. Meetings like this are possible still. They really are. We got to over communicate. And most importantly, yes, this isn't the way we want it, but we don't need to wait for perfection. Don't be afraid to take messy action. Even if your eyes are closed in a screen grab, it works. It's okay. I appreciate all of you. Very easy to find all my podcasts. I put my LinkedIn in the chat room right when we started. Feel free to reach out. I'd love to connect with you. If I can help your organizations in any way, we could certainly discuss that. I'm sure I could even give the FIA discount, but a discount. But really, it's great to be here with you. And I want to open it up to questions if anybody has any, because I know that time is important. And in this world that we live in, you got to click a button and move on to the next thing. So does anybody have any questions about culture, about pivots, or about the Royals, who won an unbelievable game last night? Who wants to be first?
I have.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So, how is it working with Denny Matthews?
Well, Denny's the greatest. I actually had he's a big hockey guy, and I announced some Mavericks hockey also, and I actually had the chance. He wanted to be the analyst, so he was my analyst for 3 games this year. So I actually got to have him as my partner, which was the coolest thing ever. I had to pick him up. He didn't want to. I don't want to drive down there. Pick me up. Okay, fine. Well, he's not even grumpy like that. I'm making it sound like he's grumpy. He's great. The interesting thing, because of COVID, is that they have asked him to work from home just out of extreme caution. So he's broadcasting those radio games from home. I haven't seen him, but what a joy. I mean, he's a legend, and he would never act like it. Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. He's amazing. Who else?
I got a question.
Yeah, Dave.
So Joel, give me your thoughts on the transition from cultures for Mike Matheny, come from the Cardinals organization to the Royals, and what that entails for the organization or for him.
I think a couple of things. And by the way, I just saw that your Cardinals, Dave, and I'll say that, but I appreciate you wearing the royal blue.
Yeah.
I saw while we were going here, popping up on my screen, that they're not going to play tomorrow, but they're expected, if all goes well, to play a doubleheader Saturday. So hopefully they're back. It breaks my heart that they've played 5 games. I mean, that could be us. That could be anyone.
Right.
Coming over from there to here, you bring a winning culture with you. I also think that management and ownership is different here. I'm not saying better or worse. And so he has the ability to do things differently here. I think whatever mistakes he made in St. Louis, I don't know that the relationship with the media, from what I understand, was as good. I think that he could be hard on younger players. That hasn't happened here. And I know we're only a few weeks in. I have had more communication and back and forth and transparency with him than any manager I've ever worked with. And I've been, at this for a long time now. So he's been fantastic. More importantly, forget about me, because really what matters is the players, first and foremost, in terms of, winning on the field. The players rave about him. I mean, he has this really nice balance of empathy, which is so important right now, especially because those guys are all going through things like us that we've never gone through before. They're coming to the park every day, having to test every day, holding their breath, hoping that they're okay.
Yeah.
Am I going to have to suddenly go into quarantine? He's had the perfect level of empathy, but he has them willing to run through a wall too. I mean, they really, not a fear factor, but he really commands attention. Been super, super impressed.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I was real curious, Joel, with after the World Series victory, and then we had a couple like 500 seasons. What then did Dayton Moore do as we kind of saw that some desert times were going to come? How did he maintain the culture during a couple of really difficult years?
It's a great question, and I have a fairly simple answer to it because I see it every single day. They never stopped with the culture. First off, culture never takes a day off. But as those players left, they filled in for them with guys that, more Raul Ibanez types. They weren't going to go out there and win the battle for, the $300 million player. They know that. That's the market that we're in. But they weren't going to then sacrifice who they were to go and find somebody that could hit home runs that would rock the boat. And so what they did was the focus was on the younger players. So what we have seen now is we've seen Hunter Dozier come up. Whit Merrifield certainly is up. And as these players are coming up, you're saying, these are really high character guys. And now you start hearing about and seeing Brady Singer and Chris Bubich and all these others that are coming. They all have that same characteristic. So the focus became on making sure that culture was taught at the lowest of levels. When a guy gets up here, they already know the Royals way.
Awesome.
So that's what it is. And I mean, taking players before the pandemic to the Dominican, young prospects, and saying, hey, we want you to visit our academy and learn what life is like down there so that you understand the Dominican way of life. I mean, they do not miss a detail on this at all. And I mean, these, you know, that old, not old, but that expression they use, raised royal, where now it's always royal, and those are fancy marketing expressions. That raised royal thing's literally true. And so by the time guys get up here, they want to be a part of this, not just because it's their big league dream, but because this organization treats people right.
That's awesome.
All right. So unless there's one more, I know we should wrap it up because we're at 12:30 now. Feel free to reach out again on LinkedIn. I'm happy to have any conversations with you guys. And I want to kick it back over so we can be conscientious of your time and your day. But thank you all so much for coming. And I know it's not perfect, but hopefully still effective. So thank you all.
Yeah, everyone clap your hands. Joel, that was awesome.
Thank you.
This is exactly what we needed today. I think everyone's feeling this. I even am getting private messages on how great this is. And so great message. And now I want to, like, I guess I'm going to have to tune into the Royals. I've been out trying to set up this ranch I thought. No, I want to. I've been a little preoccupied figuring out how to run a ranch with my horses and feed them and mow. So, but I think I need to make time for the Royals because this is great. And everyone, we will share Joel's information too. So if you want to reach out, obviously he's a great speaker. I know everyone's really enjoyed this. And thank you, Kansas Manufacturing, for sponsoring. And I wish I could show you because I actually cut up everybody's name with their company and scrunched them up, their little names in the little balls, like usually we'd take your business card for the door prize drawing. So I wanted to show you how legit this was, but you're just going to have to trust me. You can maybe hear me wrestling the basket right now. So first we're going to do a $50 Rally House gift card. And okay, drum roll. This is the part we need, like the background stuff. Let's see, who is it? Mary Birch or Boucher, Bank of Labor. Mary, are you on the call? Oh, you are. I see you.
Yes, I am.
Okay. I see you, Mary. Is it Boucher?
I'm excited.
All right. So what I'll do is just I'll email you and I'll mail you the gift card. Okay. Next, we're going to do the $50 Visa card.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Donated by Kansas Manufacturing. And let's see, who is that? Caleb Lilly with Reuben Brown. Caleb, it looks like you are still with us.
I am.
See your picture. All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
Again, I will mail you the card. And then the last one is another $50 gift card to Rally House and Gina McCord, who is now with Mental Health America of the Heartland. So congratulations, Gina. I show you're on the call as well. So all right,
you.
Well, you're welcome, you guys. I hope you all enjoyed this. You know, like Joel said, we got to make the best of the situation, and I think it was great for me to see everyone's faces. And please, I'm gonna figure out Carl and I. Carl, you sit there. He does the marketing and web design for us. We'll figure out, and Rachel and everyone, and figure out how we can improve these and make everyone connect more. So we'll send an email out, and I'd like to get ideas and feedback from everyone on how we can keep doing this until we can all be back together again. So thank you all, and if you have any questions, just give me a call or send me an email, and I will see you all again soon. Thanks for attending. Yay. Yeah, I see the clap. Yay. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Joel. Thanks, Melissa.